Obviously, quick turnaround here. Actually, from getting back from Maui, getting our legs under us here a little bit. We obviously play a terrific program. Really talented group that I think is really well coached, and they're young. They're obviously really talented. We have some familiarity with them, obviously, just playing them here last year, but they have a number of new faces. So, be a great challenge for us here on the road. First true road environment, and we're looking forward to it.
You mentioned, they obviously have a lot of freshmen. You have a lot of freshmen too, but the way that you challenge some of your veterans in Maui to step up and do more, how much do you need them to continue that in this kind of environment while some of the new guys have to figure out their first real road game in a place like this?
Yeah, I think I think Maui was important for our older guys to perform well, and I think Justice is still finding his way a little bit. We've challenged challenged Zed with consistency, and I think to have Sean kind of play the way he did in that 3-game stretch, we really hadn't seen that even as coaches. We knew it was coming, we just hadn't seen it. But I thought he and Ice provided some really good things. So, but particularly our returning 2 guys, 2 starters, it was important to see them do some good things in that 3-game stretch against good competition.
And because you mentioned Zed, this was obviously his coming out party last year, the way he played against Duke. And it seemed like at times he maybe is giving you a little bit more consistency this year.
Yeah.
Where is he as far as what you saw against Duke last year, that being more of the standard than the exception?
Well, it was an exceptional game by Zed, and I think anytime you play with great players, sometimes you benefit. Zed took advantage of that opportunity by playing with EJ was getting a lot of attention. Our perimeter guys were getting a lot of attention, and he did a great job finishing in that particular game. And he really benefited from that, and like I said, took full advantage. But his teammates also deserve some credit. They put him in great positions. I think for him, what we're looking for is consistency on both ends. His ball screen coverage has to continue to get better. It's not where it needs to be right now, and that's a focal point for us. If our defense is going to be good, our 5-man has to be on point with our ball screen coverage, and that's what we're challenging him with.
I'm wondering what can you take from last year's win, given that so many players for them, important pieces left, and
Nothing.
for you as well?
Yeah, not really much of it. We played at home, incredible environment. I can take some good memories. That's what I can take, incredible environment. And but outside of that, nothing really. They're different. We're obviously very different. They obviously have a new coaching staff, even though he was obviously on staff for a number of years and played there, but not much at all.
And then the size for them, the offensive rebounding,
yeah.
I assume presents a unique challenge so far based on the teams you've played previously. How do you kind of address that this week?
Yeah, they've got great size across the board. As big as any team will play all year, and it's not necessarily at one particular position. It's more kind of across the board. They've got great depth, interior depth. They're number 1 in offensive rebounding percentage in the country right now. So to say that's a concern going into the game is an understatement. You're playing a team that's going to play with great energy, coming off a loss. They're really gifted and really talented. They're the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the country. They're playing back at home for the first time. It'll be an incredible environment. So there's no question, obviously, having beaten them last year, we're going to get a great shot from them, and that's certainly what we expect.
Chris, what was it like to see Bruce kind of come into his own offensively in Maui?
I think it was really good to see. I think it was just good to see him kind of play like we've seen him practice. I thought he relaxed and was able to get his feet in position to make shots. His shooting numbers have been good all offseason, and he had shown that a little bit in a few games, but not to the level that he did. I think that'll continue to be the case as the game slows down for him. But more than anything, the value of Bruce right now is in so many ways, and I think that's what has given us the opportunity to play him as much as we're playing him. He's an asset on the defensive end. He can obviously run our team. He doesn't turn the ball over much, and that'll be challenged tomorrow night. So he is very much the definition of a really effective two-way player right now.
And what did you see from Ice? I mean, I know his scoring numbers were down, but defensively he played pretty well in Maui. Just what was his composure like in those games where maybe his shots weren't falling, but he was doing other things for you guys?
Yeah, I think, listen, I think people, unless they watch our team over an extended period of time, or unless they're a coach, you're going to miss some of the things Isaac does. You just are. I think you'll see it over time, but if you just take a snapshot of our team, you're going to miss a lot of what he does. He guards often the best perimeter player. He can guard 1 through 4 pretty easily. He is a real challenge in the low post to score over, even though he's 6'5". He rebounds it well. He's a really good passer for his size. So I think, people get enamored, obviously, with offense, and they see that, and that's the easiest thing to visualize when you watch teams play. But his value is pretty special in the sense that he can do a lot of different things.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
You play in a lot of great gyms already, just in conference. You go to Mackey and Chrysler and all these great buildings, and you play in these big, great environments. You're getting ready to play against an excellent team, excellent talent, but then you add in that unique element that's special to Cameron, where you're talking about the intensity is just maybe at a different level than maybe any place in the country. Who knows? It's up there. How do you prepare your kids? Because they know what it is. They've watched it growing up. Like they know what they're getting into. How do you prepare them for that? What do you want them to think about as they go into that?
Well, you mentioned it. We play in some really loud arenas and some incredible environments. I've never coached in Cameron Indoor before, so I cannot spell it out for them what it's going to be like. We'll do typical things we do preparing for a really loud environment with noise machines and making sure our communication is more visual versus audio, verbal communication in terms of from the bench. But I think as much as anything, we're looking to see how they respond to this environment. And I think it's going to require great poise. I don't think we'll be perfect in our first go-around playing in an environment like this. I just don't think we will. I think this will be good learning for us as we move forward. And like I said, I'm sure they're going to be angry from the recent loss and from losing to us last year. They've got a really competitive group, a really talented group. I said I think they're well coached. Apparently, my wife told me last night it's going to be a whiteout for the first time in years, which was nice of her to tell me right before I went to bed. So, it's going to be a great environment.
Chris, it was announced that the ACC Big Ten Challenge is coming to an end. I'm just curious what your reaction to that is, and then also how does that affect scheduling going forward in seasons to come? Yeah,
we're in the talks right now with several, a few, what will be marquee home and home games to kind of replace that ACC Big Ten Challenge. I apologize. This year we just weren't able to get it done. Typically we've been able to with a Villanova or a Duke, or we even scheduled Cincinnati when we first got here. I'd like to try to do that every year. Apologize to our fans. We just weren't able to get it done this year for a variety of reasons. Some of it was what we already had scheduled with Maui and some other things, but I want to do it every year. We're looking potentially at doing 2 home and homes, maybe 1 on the road, one at home next year, but definitely 1. Whether we can get that started here or it'll have to return it in a year, we'll figure that out.
And
y'all's offense is back at the top again, I believe 6th in Ken Palm. I'm just curious, how much of a factor is just having guys, multiple guys, not just a couple that may have been in the past or whatever, how big of a factor is it just to have ball handlers and guys that you can put the ball in their hands and know they're not going to turn it over? How crucial is that to the functionality of the offense and just being able to have success on that end?
I think it'll be interesting to see what those numbers look like as the year goes on. I think we've had some good offensive moments. We'll see, how consistent we can be with that. I think we can touch the paint a little bit better than what we were able to last year, but we also lack some things that last year's team had. So, we'll see how consistent we are with that as we move forward. I think, obviously, Justice being healthy because he can do a lot of different things is important for us.
Coach, you mentioned earlier that you guys are practicing and focusing on rebounding, and Duke is the #1 offensive rebounding team in the country, and they're also pretty tall. I believe they have either 4 or 5 guys at least 7 feet tall. With kind of like that size disparity, what do you try to emphasize in practice specifically with the rebounding in order to prepare for a game like this?
I think it's the same thing we've emphasized all year, and I think it's the same thing we've emphasized all years. And people will tell you rebounding is as much about pursuit of the ball as it is, some of the greatest rebounders have been guys that have been, a little bit smaller. So I think the reality is it's going to take a team effort. They do have great length. We're going to have to stay out of too much rotation because that's where you get in trouble on the glass. They do a great job pursuing the ball, and obviously they have good size. The young kid, the transfer from Northwestern, has really stabilized them too. Obviously they have some really talented young guys, but just having a player of his caliber has helped them on the interior as well.
Bruce talked about the confidence that he got from playing in Maui and seeing that he could play at that level. I assume that happens with everybody. How often does it happen maybe that quickly for freshmen? Is it normal, or how does that progress or that process happen?
A different pass, really different pass for different guys. We saw it happen with Malachi, and then it really happened, right? So I think different pass for different guys. The light clicks on, the game slows down, but they still go through ups and downs, and they will, like any player. But I just think it happens differently for different guys. That's why you try to keep things as simple as possible for freshmen, but still there's a lot for them to take in, absorb, learn, grow from, and he'll have some inconsistent moments too, just because he's a freshman, but he was terrific in that 3-game stretch.
Chris, is there any update on Gene for this game?
Yeah, Gene will be out this game. Yeah, he'll be out, probably until otherwise noted, really.
And then aside from Zed, who's going to get a lot of attention with their size, how important is it going to be for both Ice and Felix rotating in and out against that size? I know Felix actually played some decent amount of minutes in Maui. How important is it going to be for those two guys when Zed's out to be able to handle some of their big guys?
Yeah, I think both guys will be critical. I think Felix, Connor, all year, him coming along, gradually growing, is going to be really critical for our team. And just the contributions that again, maybe we don't see, his defensive impact, his ability just to be able to spell Zed for certain minutes. And then, when we play a lineup that kind of has a bunch of 6'7" to, 6'6" to 6'7" guys, that having that lineup out there that has some versatility and can rebound the ball will be important with Zed out for sure.
When you come back and kind of break down Maui and start moving forward, you had some guys that I'm sure didn't play as much as they thought they might, and probably some things like that with younger guys. How have you maybe addressed that with them, and how have you seen them pick up from that and try to keep them focused on the big picture?
Yeah, I think, Adam, as much as possible, you try to, and obviously I've talked about this before, you normalize that process for athletes like them. They're not the only one that's going through disappointment from not, playing as much. It's very common, not just amongst freshmen, but amongst transfers or new players or older guys, maybe different roles. So you try to show examples of how guys have handled that well and how important that is for their continued growth. And again, they have a choice to make in that situation. Team sports sometimes can be challenging things for athletes because you can be really successful as a team and things not maybe personally go as well as you want to. And you got a choice in that moment, and you either choose to be unselfish or you can choose to be about yourself. And that's the challenge for athletes in any team sport, is to make the choice that will ultimately help you become the best version of yourself.
And when you're talking about offensive rebounding, resetting the defense when a possession gets extended, the personnel that you have, how well equipped do you think some of these guys' skill sets are when it's a scramble mode, you got to figure out where you're supposed to be? Do you feel that you have guys that are equipped well for those kinds of situations?
When, like, defensive scramble situations?
Yeah, defensive scramble. Yeah.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're still adding to our defense. And we're just not there. We're certainly we're certainly a work in progress as a team, as most teams are. But defensively, we just have a long way to go. I think our performance in Maui on the defensive end was just okay in spots, and it needs to grow.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you.